broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey everybody! It is the Sing Off Holiday Special. I guess we can call it season 5. I am Tamara Berg. I am joined in studio by Kimlai Yingling.
Hey there.
And Steve Bottomley.
How about this crazy weather happening today?
Today,
right
December
now.
17th.
December 17th. Wow, how about that snowstorm? And
wow.
the hurricane that touched down.
Aren't you leaving tomorrow for holiday?
I'm leaving tomorrow for holidays.
Wow.
See?
That's our way of telling you that we are taping today, which is actually November 25th. But we are holding the story until you guys are watching it now, which is December 17th, when the Sing Off has aired. The reason why we're doing our podcast early is because the three of us had the amazing chance to attend the taping of the show. And we've got our press pass here, and I've got my ticket right here, and we had an amazing time. And so we're going to first talk about the press junket that we got to attend. Steve and I did yesterday in the morning, and then the taping in the evening, and then we'll go into the show. So starting off with the press conference. Steve and I got to be part of a very exclusive small group that met with Nick Lachey, Sean Stockman, Jewel, and Patrick Stump, who is the new judge. It was pretty exciting. We had a good 20 minutes with them.
Yeah, and they were really accessible, and they were. Here's the biggest surprise I got: Nick Lachey is funny.
You have a mad crush on him, don't you?
He was busting me up.
He is your Ben Folds, I think.
I think so. He was just relaxed, and I kept wanting to say, so Nick, why don't they let you be this funny on the show? And
right?
I didn't because
I know,
I'm getting
because you
better.
have restraint.
Wait, I think he's funny on the show.
He is, but
Not
he's so
like
much
he
more
was,
charming and funny in real life. And do you remember
Just
the first couple of years of the show, they were really giving him some pretty lame lines to read, some very bad puns.
Yeah.
And, when he is talking off the cuff, he's very charming and very funny and very good at his job.
Right.
He's very attractive, too.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. A very handsome
Very
guy.
easy to look
It was
at.
interesting to see Jewel kind of be the veteran.
Yes.
Kind of sitting back and letting the new kid, be all nervous and worried.
Right.
And, he kind of was in the press.
Yeah.
In the press conference. He was kind of like, I'm not sure why or what I'm going to do.
Well, here's how it went. I mean, when we arrived, first of all, Jewel thought she'd met me before, which I like that a lot. When they came in, Nick first was talking, and he was talking about being excited about the Sing Off being back, because he, his band 98 Degrees did do a little acapella, in their heyday, and I guess maybe earlier in his career or in his life, and so he was really excited about the resurgence of acapella and being part of it, with Pitch Perfect coming out and all that kind of Pitch Perfect 2 coming out. And then we were asking questions of Sean and Jewel because they had been there before. And so there was a lot of conversation going on between the three of them. And Patrick, partly probably because he was sort of sitting back, and also because they've got kind of a groove going. He was a little quiet.
He was a little quiet, and I felt for him because, look,
there we
he is.
go, yeah. That was Steve's position. I was actually closer in. I think we have another picture where you can see my shoulder.
I was just kind of hovering and taking.
There's my shoulder.
That's
how close we were.
Yeah. And it was pretty cool. They didn't just answer the question. They actually talked back and forth and really kind of gave you a really good answer to whatever query you might have had.
One of the things Jewel was talking about was how savvy and sophisticated the audience is for the Sing Off. And she was really jazzed about the idea of educating while entertaining. There I am with Home Free. We got to talk to them too.
I got more of your shoulder.
Yeah, they're all very tall. I'm not a tall person to begin with, but
Guys,
they
that
are
is awesome.
really tall.
I'm so glad they were able to come back.
They were,
Yeah.
well, they were just like, let's go get a beer.
I have a whole page of notes, so we'll talk about them in a
But
sec.
were they part of the press conference?
Yes.
Or,
Mhm.
oh,
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
I really missed out.
You did. Anyway, back to Jewel, talking about educating while entertaining during this show, because there are a lot of singing shows and a lot of music shows on, and this is one where they really get to show their expertise. She, talked about some really specific, and they do it all the time in the show over the years, but she talked about really specific moments within the competition songs, and I love hearing those things. That's what so many of us really loved about Ben Folds' critiques in the past, and I love that opportunity to entertain and engage and learn at the same time. And we all have talked about, in the past years, the opportunity to learn things and.
And I was very curious to see how this was going to go without Ben.
Yeah.
Our good friend Ben.
Yes. My boyfriend. Ben Folds.
Because he really is he's just this musical genius and can hear all these things. And Jewel pretty much just stepped right into that
Yes, she did.
role.
I agree with that.
And Sean was exactly who he's always been.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, the new
Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy.
If only there was some way to. He was a real good cheerleader.
He was. So again, during the press conference, Sean talked about how nerds rule the planet.
Yes.
Talking about nerd flag fly.
Yeah.
The sing-off is an extension of who I am, he said, and what I've always represented, because he's been heavy in a cappella his entire career. He said, and there's something about voices when they're in perfect harmony. There's nothing like it, and it's something that in other instruments, aside from the human instrument, you can't do.
Right. No, his passion for not only the show but just music in general and the a cappella absolutely came through. When you have a moment, when he has the moment to just talk about it, there's no denying just how important it is to him, and how. I mean, it must be frustrating for him for this. Stumbling along on the show, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we will.
But it is not at all an affection that he puts on that stage. It is absolutely
he's
heartfelt.
Incredibly genuine. I mean, they all really are.
Right.
You don't have any sense of pretense with any of them.
Right.
Sean and Jewel together were talking about how deceivingly hard a cappella is, and I kind of threw out that part of the reason, and we have sung together before. There's no place to hide in a cappella. There is no place to hide, and if you hit it wrong, you can back off your mic, but people hear it.
Right.
So
they not only hear it, it's actually a physical. You can feel the vibration shift.
Yep.
When everything's in perfect harmony, there's the vibrations are just right. But if something drops, it's like the speakers are not phased. It is, you feel
people lock up a little bit.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's not as bad as fingernails on a chalkboard,
but it's something. It can be something like that.
Close to the chalkboard.
Jewel talked about how she loved that that a cappella is a team sport, and we've heard and talked about that ourselves over and over again. When we went to the season 3 finale, it's one of the things that Ben talked about on the red carpet was that idea of choral music in whatever way it is, if it's ancient music or current music, if it's rap, if it's hip hop, if it's whatever. There's that sense of lifting each other up with the common goal of making something beautiful, and the Home Free guys actually talked about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Home Free touched on that as well, because we asked them the question how they went through the long version. They went through weeks and weeks and weeks.
7 weeks they were on the show.
7 weeks.
That was just last year.
Yes.
Yes.
And
They've changed the
so
format.
we asked, well, would you prefer this? I mean, what is your take being on the other side? And it was kind of split. A couple of them went, oh, totally prefer one shot.
Yeah, they were saying they were jealous of these guys.
Yeah. But what they did say is and this is them, they said this.
Yes, they did.
That the producers tried to get them riled up against each other, tried to have sort of like this, rival.
Yeah, to create a little conflict.
Right, to create the conflict.
Because that makes good TV, was literally what they said.
That's what they said, is because they felt it. And what they discovered is it doesn't really work, because although it's a team sport, when you're doing it, you're still rooting for the other
opponents.
Teams. You're still rooting for the opponents. And when they have to leave and you've spent, 6 weeks or whatever kind of rooting for each other, again, a lot of that stuff seemed real now that we talked to these guys.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of like crocodile tears. I think they were genuinely hurt.
No. Okay.
And
so
also
then,
happy that it's not them.
we need to kind of get a move on. But Sean talked about how this was one of the great lines that he said. You know what I love about the kind of music that's made in a cappella? It's not all about sex, checks, and pecs. You're like, okay, whoa, got that one.
That's when Nick Lachey went, geez, Sean, give it a break.
They
we
were
decided
funny.
that would be a good Nick Lachey street name.
Yeah.
Or the name of an album.
Sex, checks, and pecs.
Yeah, his next album.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Also, Sean mentioned that he worked with someone who was a good friend of Kanye West. Kanye is apparently a huge fan of the sing-off. So again, it's kind of lending credence to this idea that there is room for a cappella. Pitch Perfect 2 is coming out. It's kind of everywhere.
And we're going to touch on that later.
Yeah. Patrick just had a 6-week.
Oh, are we going to touch on that?
6-week-old baby boy.
Yes,
7,
he
8, 9.
did.
He's 9 or 10 months. 10
Yes.
weeks
Oh my
old
gosh,
now.
he looks like he's
Yes.
20.
He seems pretty jazzed about that.
Yeah. And one of the things Patrick talked about was that he was criticized early in his career for his voice being too pretty.
That's right, yeah.
And it kind of was wrecking his rock and roll cred.
Yeah.
And so he was having to throw some gravel in there
Yeah.
and change his voice, which was kind of funny
at one
to hear.
point he said, I went out and I just started missing notes so people would believe I was a real rock and roll singer. Like, wow. Okay.
So a couple of things about Home Free. In the last year, they've released 2 albums, one of them a Christmas album called Full of Cheer. They sold 30,000 tickets on their tour, sold out a lot of venues. They kicked off the CMA Awards. They sang the national anthem at a NASCAR race. That was kind of an interesting story. Their plane was late. They had to get to the racetrack, had a police, lights and sirens escort, and landed at the venue 4 minutes before they were to go on and sing the national anthem.
You're here, sing.
Sing now.
Yeah.
Their first album that they put out after the sing-off debuted #1 on the country iTunes charts. How about that?
Yep.
And that same album made it to the Billboard Top 40, and they got their name in Rolling Stone.
They did. They were very, very excited about that.
They were super excited.
Also, don't think for a minute, since they're just a bunch of country boys, that they are not savvy about electronic.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And social media. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys are sharp, and they know who's tracking. They know numbers. I mean, it's just like encyclopedic how these guys are giving us information.
They were talking about Patreon. I'm not sure how what the pronunciation is, and that's basically an opportunity for bands to crowdfund their videos.
Right.
And they have incredibly loyal fans on their Patreon list, where the crowds are funding their videos to a rate much higher than a lot of other bands, even though they have very few followers. So that's kind of exciting for them.
Less followers, but getting actually more money per person. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, they said every penny does go to the video. It all goes absolutely
into production. Yeah, they put it all in there. They said, I can't imagine the sing-off won't be back for another season. So there we go.
Let's touch on that later, shall we?
Yeah, it was a really amazing opportunity that we had. It was really, really fun. I wish you could have been there, and I wish you all could have been there, but we had a great time.
There was a rumor that the big band was going to come in, the big group, the Beatles of a cappella, but unfortunately.
Yeah, they didn't get there till later in the day.
Yeah.
Because they were probably flying in from Tokyo or someplace.
Probably.
They're so darn
Probably.
popular.
I'm glad you guys were able to get all that information. That's a lot of information.
It was amazing.
Back-end info.
It was amazing. It was really, really cool to be able to go. And we had to work hard to get into that, but we did. And
when all the hosts are sitting there, you're kind of like going, okay, I don't want to sound like an idiot. I don't want to sound like an idiot. Okay. You've got an internal monologue that you don't want to make them uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have the wrong. When Home Free sat down, it's like,
hey guys, what's up? Yeah, exactly. What are you guys doing after, practically?
Hey, there's a really cool play. They were so relaxed and cool. It was great.
And by the way, to any West Coast fans, I kind of gave them a little ribbing about the fact that all of their tour has been essentially in the Midwest, which is where they're from, so it kind of makes sense. But I gave them a little bit of a hard time about it, and they promised us that they are doing West Coast dates starting in the spring.
Yeah.
So look out for that.
The only other thing I just want to button on is they actually said that since the sing-off experience, they have changed their song lineup, and they've been forced to get
more material
and just address the bigger audience that comes with that. So.
Yeah,
it's only natural.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's move into the actual show. Now, one of the things I need to preface with is that we.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
focus, people. We're doing a show. I want to preface that this was from what we know right now, today, November 25th, is that this is a 2-hour special that's running on NBC on December 17th. The order that we watched it in is going to be a little bit different than what you guys have just seen and what we've probably just seen when we watch it on December 17th. There are 1 or 2 things that I think they're going to tape independent of what we saw. So there are things that will be on this that we didn't see. So if there are things we didn't address or if we get things wrong, it's because we saw a different version live than you guys watched on the broadcast. So don't hate on us for that, okay? We're doing the best we can.
We're working with raw footage.
Please and thank you. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so starting with the opening number, we had all 6, I'm going to call them bands, intertwined with groups, because that's what several people were saying as they were there. So we had all 6 bands doing Kids in America.
Yep.
My thoughts, I love these opening numbers because you get the fullness, you get little little personalities from each group. This choreography move, we're going to like this. I thought that was super fun. Nice build to the finish, energetic, lively, and a great open. What do you guys think?
You know what? I thought it was super interesting. And I seriously forgot that acapella was acapella. I was looking around for the instruments.
Where's the band?
Where's the band at? I also, and I want to get your opinion too, like, how did you feel about being in the Dolby Theater? Because we haven't watched it in that capacity before.
No.
It was a lot. It was just a lot.
It was.
Okay, I'm going to go with bittersweet. I mean, it was really cool to be there. It was really cool to see how they do the show. It was really...
Absolutely.
But if you're going to do a critique, that's not the place to be. I'm really impressed that the judges were hearing everything that they hear. We get a mixed, tight version when you
on TV,
on television.
Yes,
you don't hear that now. They're wearing earpieces, so they're getting a much tighter mix than what we're hearing.
Yes,
but in the audience, it's a lot harder work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's one of the things we've talked about since the first time we did this show, which is now 3 years ago. The idea that what are the judges hearing versus what is the television audience hearing versus, which is why we had always wanted to go to a taping. When we did go to the taping in season 3, we were sitting back in the press room, which had a completely different sound vibe because we had sound coming in from the wall live as well as a speaker back there. So we were very confused during that point. But yeah, it was really interesting, and there's so much going on. There's directors and the audience coordinators and the lights and the fog. Which we will talk about the fog.
Wow.
One of the cool things about being there live, though, if you get the chance, hopefully you'll get the chance.
Yeah. Maybe when you attend for the Oscars, do you mean?
Well, if you get a chance to ever sit in on a sing-off.
Oh, a sing-off. Got it.
Is the bass does kick you in the gut.
Yeah, you feel it.
The mix is just incredible. Yeah. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the other trappings and all the stuff going on. And by the way, we will sometimes stop, rewind. You don't get to do that. So we're riding, looking up, and then after the song, we're like, okay, what'd you get?
Yeah, it was hard.
It was tough.
So you can look for us during. Yeah, I know. We were sitting right behind the jib cam that I kept thinking was going to hit us in the head.
It was right here.
It was right in front of us, in front of Kimlai and I. And so you're probably not going to see us on camera much because we were under a camera most of the time. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out, because after the opening, they introduced the judges, including Patrick, who we hadn't met before. And so they said he is filling in for Ben Folds. I felt like that was sort of leaving the door open for Ben to come back. Did you guys think that, or Steve? What you had? I think a different opinion, didn't you? Or did you?
No, I was with you on that. I think he is filling in. I think if he does come back, so many ifs in this thing.
Right.
He just needs a point of view.
Yeah.
That's what he was like. And I don't blame him. I mean, this is a tough thing to sit and try to figure out all the stuff that's going on. And you're sitting with a veteran and someone who's done it for a full season.
Yeah, and Sean, who's done it for however many seasons.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So, you know, for just to be able to keep his head above water in this, and he's a very, very smart guy.
Yes.
So, and not to say that, you know, his notes were great, but again, everyone that knows the show is like, yeah, that's no Ben Folds.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that we saw the full critique, and as we know, that will get edited down to a line or two.
For sure.
It has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was
they get a lot of information when they're standing up there on the stage.
That was a 6-hour taping we attended.
Was it? Wow, it really felt like only about 5 hours and 59 minutes.
You know
Go
what?
ahead.
I feel like what he said was scripted. It was just so precise. I mean, the very first thing out of his mouth was, "Ben is on tour, and I am just filling in." Right? Yeah. Right when they introduced him, you know, and it made me at first. I wasn't happy that Ben wasn't going to be there.
Right.
It's like, I don't want. Who's this other judge?
A lot of people aren't happy, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about fans. Yeah.
I feel the way it was set up, it allowed you to actually like him because you knew he wasn't permanent, and Ben could be coming back. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to give the new guy a hard time.
Right, and he's not usurping the position. Yeah. Well, and you know,
So
we'll see.
I think they set it up pretty well.
And again, I think what helped was Jewel stepping up and basically taking over all of Ben's notes.
Right. Well, she's done that in past
I was
seasons
going to
too.
say, she's very...
She is
not
very
like she
technical,
did,
but
not like she did, you know, what you just saw.
Right.
Whenever we saw it.
Last night, December 16th or 17th or whenever.
I'm not sure when this is airing.
I don't either.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So then let's move on to The Exchange, the first band that we saw. Boy band from Los Angeles, California, 5 members, young guys. And, okay, this is the one that was kind of a super group made up from season 3 contestants and others. So we had a couple people from the Yellow Jackets. We had someone from The Method, if you remember them from season 3. There was a producer of the sing-off, and Alfredo, the soloist, he recorded studio tracks.
Oh.
He worked for the sing-off recording studio tracks for season 3, guys. So that is who made up The Exchange.
Did we watch the same package?
I did my research is what happened.
Oh my goodness.
I actually worked before I got here is what happened.
Then there were a
Anyways.
couple of bands that were kind of like super groups put together because
Yeah, but
the
this
other
one specifically though
San
had
Francisco.
Yes.
There was another one.
Yes,
Okay.
but these guys are like sing-off supergroup. Anyway,
Right.
so the number that they did was Love Runs Out by One Republic, which we love that song.
Yep.
I just love the build, and I loved Alfredo's solo. But I want to hear what you guys had to say about that.
Kimlai.
Yeah.
That song is one of my favorite songs.
Well, I don't know what that says.
It was.
Period, the
I
end.
was very, very happy that it started that way. I felt energized. It got me going. I thought they all meshed really well, and I kind of expected it considering the bio.
Yeah.
During
right.
the package,
Yeah,
when they were
because
talking
it's
about how
kind of
they
a
all
supergroup.
came together, it was just like, they're going to be good.
Right. Steve?
Yeah, this is one of those things where I think the producers do choose carefully who's up and what they're singing. Because this was just a dead-on exactly what they needed to start the show off.
Oh, it's a great start.
The rhythm and bass together
I know,
was just
yeah.
amazing. Everything was so tight, and it really looked kind of like if we're going long form, it looked like
Later in the season.
performance.
Yeah.
But it kind of was, because they've all done it.
Right.
So
right.
they knew how to do it. They knew how the song needed to be structured, which on the second one we'll talk about as well.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a great way to start the show.
I did too. I thought it was really good and energetic. My one critique was that the lead sounded a little sharp when he started singing. And again, you can't trust your ears kind of in
Not
that
in there.
situation. Not where we were,
No.
but
If we're hearing it pitchy, it's really pitchy.
yeah, right, exactly. But I thought it was really well balanced between the performers too,
Yep.
which is not something I think about another one that happened later.
No, but the stage work. These guys knew how they looked. These guys knew how they looked on camera, and they knew how the moves looked. They just had everything just right.
They were the all-pro team.
They were the all pros.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else on them?
No.
Okay, then let's move on to Timothy's Gift. So they were the ladies who sang in prison. And they kept talking about, it was very funny when we were watching the video package, we were talking about, they were saying, well, these people are in prison for doing really bad things. And I turn over to Steve and I go, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Which cracked us up.
Have you yeah.
Now, they had the massively long pause before they actually got to perform. So one of the things that happens is the audience claps. The guy who's warming up the audience asks everybody to not go, woo, because that's a note that they hear. So you clap and clap and clap. A couple of jerks go, woo, and then they get their note, and then they try and hit their note after they hear woo, and then they try and sing. And then they decide to use smog, whatever they call it. Yeah, because we have an abundance of it here in Los Angeles.
Yeah. I thought it went off accidentally.
I don't know what the deal was, but boy, did that slow everything down.
Where they were felt horrible for them.
Well, now, and I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
They're in their package. They say, they walk into maximum security prisons, and they have to wear body alarms and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So at first I was kind of like, oh, bummer. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute. You guys are used to walking into maximum security prisons, having to wait for fog to clear.
Which was several minutes at this point. It was like between 5 and 10 minutes.
But it shouldn't be rattling them. It shouldn't be getting them off focus. Now, the guy did have to come in a few times and re-give them their notes, and they double-check their first note and all that sort of stuff. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I was trying to think, did that really affect the performance, having to wait for that long on stage?
Oh.
Did that take some of the energy away? Did that take some of the focus away? And I've got to say, well, if it did, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you've learned in prison. It seems like you could have your focus, and I'm not saying it did.
Right.
I'm just trying to think if it had any effect on and we only got one song, so I have no idea if it had an effect or not.
They sang
but it was
Ghost.
a long time.
Yeah,
So.
They sang Ghost by Ella Henderson. What were you going to say, Kimlai?
I don't think that really affected them.
No?
I don't get your whole prison analogy about what prison is teaching them.
He's just saying
they should be prepared.
If you're ready to go, and there's an external force saying, no, hold on, and you're ready, and now, because if you're mentally in the place where you're ready to sing, and you can't, and someone's telling you not to.
But that's completely different than singing in front of millions of people.
No, he's just saying that the kind of fortitude that it takes to sing in front of prisoners is the same fortitude that would get you through waiting 10 minutes for the smog to clear. That's all he's saying. We have to go a little bit faster.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
So I thought it was soulful and pretty. I thought Abby's solo was fantastic, but there was no no percussion and no bass.
Right.
That's what I have. The bass percussion was missing.
It was very, very pretty, and it felt like I was just listening to backup tracks.
Okay.
Because there's nothing there.
Wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. San Fran 6. They sang Break Free from Ariana Grande. It was their first time on stage, though, together.
Yes. So according to the package, one of the guys went back to San Francisco and put together his friends and everybody to come back and make a name for themselves.
Make a group. Yep.
I can't find it in my...
Absolutely. It's right here.
Oh, here it is. Yes.
Okay. It took time for them to get in sync, I thought. And I missed that they didn't have a lot of dynamics. That was my biggest critique on them. You guys?
I just put they were good. I didn't think they were great. They weren't one of my favorites.
The first
throughout
note,
the whole night.
The first note just kind of sounded like a boat horn. It was,
right.
It was. I don't know what they were trying to do.
They're from the Bay Area, so it could have been the foghorn.
Could have been a foghorn.
Yeah.
And I thought they were kind of pitchy as well.
Okay.
And here's the thing, we saw, the first one.
The Exchange.
Yeah. So we're basing everything off what they did.
Yeah, they set the bar pretty high.
And
yes,
I enjoy having them.
We know 3 of them only get 1 shot.
Right.
So the way you're looking at the thing is completely different than when you're doing long form.
Yeah.
You've got this much. You've got no room for a mistake.
No, not at this point. You really don't.
Yeah.
You really don't.
So.
The judges liked it. Although Jewel said it took them time to lock in, which is the same thing I said. It took them time to get in sync. Okay, let's move on to the next group. A Squared. They sang Pompeii by Bastille.
Okay.
Okay, that's right. These are the people we're going to talk about.
Yes.
So it's a cappella reinvented. They had a DJ. They had a guy they called DJ. So they are the ones who, and this was their quote: "It's live and it's all of it's all of our voices." So that was their justification for using the loops of we're going to record your voices. You're singing that. It's going to get looped and it's going to continue further. Let's first talk about what we thought of their performance.
Do you have anything?
I was a little upset because of the electronics.
You couldn't get past it, really?
So I couldn't get past it because the whole time I was trying to figure out why they were there. How did they do the sounds that they were doing? I thought it was very cocky, actually, obviously they were let in, but I thought it was very cocky for them to come to a traditional a cappella competition and play a game that wasn't obviously fair for everybody else.
Steve?
As far as the performance, I enjoyed the performance, and I love what they were doing with it. I love where they're going. I love they were saying, you don't need to just be a cappella. You can do other stuff with your voice.
Right.
That's exactly right. As a competition,
you don't agree. Yeah.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
And just the note that you made 2 seasons ago, didn't they have Sonos? Didn't they have a whole bunch of toys that they had to pull?
Yeah, they had pedals.
They had pedals.
Right.
So listen, and honestly, most of the time when I was watching, I kept thinking, whoever runs this has no idea what they're doing with the show. They just don't know.
Hold that for later.
I will. But that was what kept going through my mind. Is like you
because it was on a loop.
No,
an electronic loop.
Because there's no
that thought. I mean,
yes. There's no reason in the world they should have been, and I knew they were not going to advance because there's no way they could win because that's just nuts to say it's a cappella, but we're using electronics to make it better.
So my thought was, if they're using a sound and looping it through, why don't they just add more members?
Yes.
I mean, that's the answer to their justification of using electronics.
And they're, by the way, their package is saying, look, if we make a mistake, we hear the mistake over and over, and I'm thinking, how do we know that?
That's true.
Right.
There's a lot of buttons on that machine that they did not invent.
No, they didn't invent the technology. They absolutely didn't. And so there was some confusion that maybe they had. I thought the sound was really full. I thought it was really interesting to hear. It was an unusual way of looking at it.
Yes.
But I don't think it's fair in competition. I just don't.
If you want
to, once you win, then you can go out and do that in the world. Jewel talked about, and again, some of the notes that we heard them say may not make the final cut, but she talked about that they were sort of bionic and cyborgs, that the gimmick was great and it was interesting, but the emotion wasn't entirely there. And that's one of the elements that, there's opportunities when it's real voices singing live. At the moment, there's opportunities for adjustment and opportunities for collaboration that can't be there.
Right.
So as much as you get the benefit of using the electronics, there's also a drawback to it.
Sure.
Just from purely from a presentational point of view. And Patrick talked about how he tried doing this on stage once, and it was a train wreck and fell apart, and it was one of the worst performances he'd ever done.
Right.
So and
it's not to pull away from DJ. What he's doing is very difficult and very tricky and all of that stuff. And I would love to see their show. I would love to have them flesh out exactly what they're doing and do something really super creative, which I know they could come up with.
Yeah.
But not in a competition.
But it's just not fair in a competition.
It just was not fair in a competition.
But I would probably go see them.
I would go see them too.
Yeah. But not with me, because I've had enough time with you lately.
I'll take Kimlai.
Okay, moving on to Traces. We had River Deep, Mountain High, Tina Turner song. I felt like it was messy in the beginning, a little bit, but when I think what I said was, did they find their groove or did I just not follow it? But great lows because they had a bass. They had a girl who was a bass, which was insane. Tamika.
She was great, and the rhythm section was great. They started out with a real Manhattan transfer sound. I'm like going, oh, this is going to be cool. It kind of moves into like a street corner vibe thing going on. And then it got messy.
It did get messy. Okay, good. It wasn't just me.
And this River Deep Mountain High, there's pitch changes in there.
Yes.
And if you don't allow us to follow that, if those transitions get as messy as they were, it's like, oh, wait, now, where are we now?
Right.
So I don't know if that was the best song to try what they were doing.
Well, what it is it's risky, and if you do it well, it shows your virtuosity, and if it doesn't, then it becomes a huge problem.
Long term, they wouldn't have been kicked out. They might have been in the bottom few, but they wouldn't have, and then they would have figured out the thing, and I'm sure they would have gone near the end.
Right. Right. Kimlai?
I thought there was too much bass and percussion. I thought it was messy.
Too much bass from a girl group. See, that's the thing that we've always said in the past, and I said it when we were coming in tonight, that that girl groups can't win because they don't have a bass, and then here they have one who is a bass, and that because they don't have that full sound. That's been the drawback from all the other seasons. So I think they really had an opportunity, but
and I don't know if it's going to transfer over into the show, but there was definitely more of a beatbox emphasis last night.
Oh, yeah, they were talking about that throughout the whole night.
Yeah, and I don't know, is because it was a short version, if, everything, you had to redesign what you were going to do because of the format, but if you didn't have something like that, you really kind of like, Timothy's gift, you just like, where's the rest of your song?
Yeah.
Well,
it's hard to compare.
Because they've shortened everything so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
To a week.
Yeah, it's so focused.
Right.
It's so focused. So next we had the Melodors, who did Trumpets by Jason Derulo, and they had a kick line. They did the full-on Rockettes by the end. And I turned to Kimlai when I was watching this. I was like, of course they have a kick line. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Great song, full. The opening was a little bit disjointed, but boy, was that a crowd favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all night were crowd
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
I just kind of was watching it thinking, and I've already seen this. It was just reminiscent to every other collegiate group that has been on the show, which is, the sound is great, it's polished, and you're kind of doing the same moves because you have so many people. And I'm like, okay, well, so we have our collegiate group.
Yeah.
But I think the collegiate group, they all have that same style, so that's to be expected.
Right.
Because they're competing against each other. You sort of have to fall into what is expected, the classic of collegiate. So to the semifinal, we had the Exchange, Traces, and the Melodors, which all three Kimlai predicted.
Yeah.
Steve and I predicted it would be the Exchange, Traces, and...
Gamble.
A squared, I believe.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Then we had Home Free and the judges sing Stand By Me, and then Nick jumping in a little ways in. Wasn't that fun?
Glad he did
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I was just glad they all participated like that.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
And you forget Nick can sing every single time. It's like, oh, that's right. He's a good singer. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my new crush.
I know, he is. I love that. I'm really happy for you.
Nick?
Yeah. We got to figure out one for you, lady,
He's
because
dreamy.
the two of us got it figured out.
He's dreamy.
Okay, so then we come back and we have Traces sing I'm Every Woman. The word that I used was fantastic. It was full. It was a great arrangement. It was tight. It was really awesome. That was what I thought. And Steve, you didn't like it, right?
No, it was cluttered.
Because you
That was
loved
so
it.
funny. You and I were sitting there going on and on about it, and Steve's like, oh, I don't know.
Tell us what you thought.
Same problem as before. It's just so cluttered. The transition and
I think we have the same reaction we had last night.
I know.
It's like, what?
And here's the difference. The
I'm going to pour myself some more wine because it's a finale and a debut.
The Exchange, the All-Pro, knew that you're going to go through the song and they are going to keep you on the page, so to speak. She's handing you wine.
That's nice.
As the song goes, they're not going to go all over the place and make you try to work to keep track of where they are in the song.
So what part were you not, was it the modulation that bothered you, or was it the arrangement? What do you mean? And I know we were writing notes so fast, we didn't get to watch it twice or anything. So
what I have is the transitions are still rough. The overall arrangement wasn't very clear to me. And it was just cluttered. There was so many little poppy notes that maybe they weren't exactly right. But there was just kind of like, the best way I could describe it for me was just seemed really cluttered.
Okay.
Simplify it, and I could probably see. And I think that was why I wasn't as blown away by the dynamics, because I was still trying to just keep track of where they were in the song.
Well, Sean called it honey dripping off a spoon.
Yeah.
Kimla, is that how you felt about it?
I thought they killed it. And it's like, I wish they would have come out with, I'm glad they sang that, obviously, but I felt like that should have been what they came out with first. It's like The first round should look like that. They should
agree.
be that ready, that tight. It was just strong, I think, when they came out. And plus, the first time it was like there was so much bass percussion that it was like, that my butt was shaking. It was like there was so much percussion.
I saw that. Your
Did
butt
you?
shaking.
You did?
So did the camera guy.
Anyway, and so I felt like they were a unit. I totally felt like they were a unit. I loved the song. I loved the power.
It's probably me then.
Yeah, because it's a
everybody
song
else,
about women, and you can't handle that.
Yes. Everyone else really agrees with you guys. I mean, everyone in there was just.
Yeah, they were on their
tells you something.
feet.
Yeah, I know.
Steve,
I'm
jeez.
saying it's
We are
probably
right,
me.
and you are wrong, and I love saying that.
Mr. Contradictory.
Next, we had the exchange doing "Sing" by Ed Sheeran. It was energetic. It was fun. It was a bit sharp. It felt like to me, though.
Yeah, it got a little pitchy in the break.
And but the rap done in a cappella harmony, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
Loved it. Big pluses on my notes.
For me, there's that big opening, and then they all have that nice drop together. And again, they're pros, and so if they're going to do something, obviously they're going to make it as simple as possible, but still make it interesting.
Yes.
And I think that's what showed in that.
Kimlai?
My favorite part was the rap.
Yeah.
When they harmonized on the rap together.
Yeah.
What did Joel say though? It was supposed to be something else, and then they created that rap.
In Ed Sheeran's version, it's a rap, not a harmony, and so they took the rap and made it into harmony. And
God,
as she was saying,
really
kind
pretty.
of everybody knows the tune was kind of going, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
And they chose to do it as a harmony, and so it was kind of a, it was sort of, I think, the perfect interpretation of Ed Sheeran's song. Because they did it the way a cappella would. You know what I mean?
But isn't that like the whole premise? I mean, when they arrange the song, I mean, they're supposed to get creative and do that kind.
Yes,
right?
but you can, of course, but you can always do a pretty straight interpretation and do a rap at that point.
But
because that's what they could do.
they did.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with
And
that.
I think that
Got it.
I think that
They should get extra points for
Yes,
that.
you should.
I think that goes to the point of them knowing what they need to do
What their strengths are.
and what the show's expecting.
Yeah.
Again, it's the all-pro team, so they are going to step up like that.
Right.
And I got to tell you, throughout the spoiler alert, throughout the show, I figured they were the lock. I just figured.
The exchange?
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah.
Not me.
Not Kimlai. She chose them from the beginning.
I know. We haven't heard the end.
Oh, no, we haven't. So next we had, for their second number, like in the version that we watched,
Yes.
the Melodors do Take Me to Church by Hozier. Okay, here's the thing. It was a solo with backup,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I thought it was very good, very simple, but literally what I wrote here was, but not a winner. How wrong could I be?
And I wrote down, I knew it.
I had the same thing. I got, great dynamics, great stage. I mean, stage work, nice. Background might have been more creative in the voice placement. They were all hitting the same thing going. They weren't breaking anything up, as far as I remember. And it was, again, I just kind of felt like, here's the thing. I was comparing them to when they did the Queen.
Yes.
And the group that nailed Queen. Mm-hmm. I was expecting something like that because what you don't see on the show is one of the guys said, "We've seen this in rehearsal. This is going to blow you away." Again, the only group they said that to.
about.
Yeah, nice. So, I didn't have that feeling.
But Kimlai, I want to know why you
loved
loved it so much. Why you thought it was the winner.
I just dynamically, the fact that they could, that guy that was singing the solo could carry that the whole time of their performance. I mean, he didn't lose it the whole time, and they just supported. They were just such a tight unit, and I just felt. I mean, I could feel what they were singing. And the first time they were out, it was like it was so energetic, and it was they were entertaining me, and they sing good, and it's like it reminded me of Grease, and I forgot where I was for a little bit, you know, and it's like, oh my God, and they're all so cute in the little jackets, and it's like, I think when you watch a performance and you can forget where you are, and they make you feel a certain way, that's something special, and it's like, they hit me right at the first time, like I told you guys when I saw them, it's like, oh my gosh, and then that church one, that was insane. I mean, I just felt he really sang that. Like, he sang his butt off.
For me, I felt like because it was, and this actually harkens back to when I was doing a cappella, I would suggest tunes to our musical director that were a lot like that were a solo with backup behind it, and he would nix them all the time. He's like, no, because that's not what a cappella is supposed to be. It's supposed to be more of a collaboration. And where you can have moments of that, the fact that that was the entire structure of the song sort of made me feel like it wasn't really using the device of a cappella as beautifully as they could. Of course, you could argue that in the earlier song that they did do that, and this was just a follow-up, but that was sort of my feeling about why it wasn't a winner in my mind.
Now, I know it's a very powerful song. I really like the song.
Yes.
And so not only am I expecting something amazing, I've also been primed by whoever, oh my God, you guys are going to blow this.
Wait till you see this, yeah.
And I've got the whole Queen thing going on.
Right.
So I kept waiting for that moment.
Right. Right.
And it just never happened for me.
I think it was the combination. Their first song, their second song, that they could show.
Right. Range and versatility and that kind of thing.
Again, maybe it's me because it seemed like I've seen this before.
One of the other things that I want to mention that I think was particularly clear on this tune was how incredible the production was behind them, where they had all those like architectural Gothic, images in back, and consistently throughout all of the performances, they had these amazing themes going on, and I think that had everything to do with being in the Dolby because they didn't have that sort of setup in when they were doing it at Sony. But I was really impressed with the production here, and it was as particularly beautiful in that one, and then also one of the songs that Traces did.
Trace. I had that the first one, wasn't it?
River Deep Mountain High.
Where it was black and white.
Yes, I think so. Maybe.
Maybe. That got me with their. It was like, whoa.
I don't remember that.
That production was nice.
But again, that was another moment where I'm like going, that seems kind of skewered. Mm-hmm. Because that was an image that I didn't see any other group get.
Which the
big
Gothic arches and stuff.
So specific to what they were doing. No,
go back and watch it again because you'll see. It's just that I think it was particularly beautiful and particularly highlighted in this tune.
Okay.
Maybe because the plaid jackets didn't go. I don't know. Then we had Pentatonics do their Christmas medley.
How many times?
Well, we saw it twice. Lucky
It
yes.
was beautiful.
It was incredible. I can't tell you how hard Kimlai and I were wanting to use our cameras and tape and photograph things. And we weren't allowed to. So, like, I have a picture of our feet. Like, oh, look, here's our feet at the Dolby.
Shoulder.
Yeah. It was, the things that we saw were so amazing. And I was dying to record that. But
did you see the little girl next to me? She's just snapping pictures.
Yeah, but then she got in trouble.
Your number? Can you forward me all those pictures?
Yeah, she got in trouble though.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing to listen to them.
Yeah.
And okay, so they do the bit. And you gotta do it again.
Sorry, you got to do it again.
Not that anyone was complaining.
I did think the second time sound better.
Did you hear any difference?
I thought the second one was better.
I mean, I thought it was.
God.
They have 7 million followers on YouTube.
Yeah.
7 million subscribers to their YouTube channel, which is like insane.
And people in the audience were saying, "Oh, we've been trying to get tickets, and they sell out, instantly.
Yeah.
Anytime they announce."
Yeah.
It's they. I was joking about being the Beatles of acapella, but they are just insanely popular.
I went to sleep last night with the idea of them in my head, and they so proved that they deserved to win.
Yes.
Thankfully, we saw them. We got to. We forgot to ask Kirsty about her eyeshadow, if you'll remember that.
Yes.
But we have pictures of that. We stood in front of them. We shook their hands. It was incredible back when they were babies, and it was incredibly exciting. And I was so proud isn't the right word, but impressed and pleased for them that they have flourished so incredibly well. I mean, you see them, especially during the holidays, you see them on the Today Show. They're lighting the Christmas tree, or have already lit the Christmas tree at the National Mall. I mean, it's amazing the things that they're doing, and I'm so happy for them. It's just incredible. There's also a judge performance that we actually didn't see that I think you guys are going to get to see. I hope that you do. And then the one thing that we were promised that they were going to do, which we've loved in past seasons, is a sing-off between the two finalists. They changed the format. Sometime after the press conference, they cut that moment, and we didn't get to see it. And so that was kind of sad for us. But the crowning achievement, wow, that's loud.
That's why I wasn't pouring anything.
The crowning.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Slurp from Steve's.
You didn't pour anything?
Okay. Well, no, I was waiting. I
Just shush over there. I'm talking.
Wow.
So the Melodors were the winners. Steve.
Do you think there's going to be competition that we don't see, that the Melodors win?
What?
Oh, I thought you were saying that there's something that we...
No, they won.
Yeah.
Hello, they were the winners. They were the winners of the sing-off.
I got that, but I thought you were saying that there was like yet another competition.
No, there was a sing-off. Do you remember in past seasons there were two? They would sing the same song
and that
throw.
was supposed to happen.
It was supposed to happen, and they cut it.
Okay.
Well, I think we did see it, but we're used to seeing it after they cut it.
Okay.
No, there was supposed to be, what they explained to us was that the final three.
Yes.
We're going to get cut down to two.
Right.
Two, we're going to do a sing-off.
But I think you will see a sing-off in December, because I think the way they're going to cut it, I think you'll see. It's called the sing-off. You have to have a sing-off.
Well, okay.
I think you're wrong.
I think
you all know, we don't. We're going to stop talking about it because this is just frustrating us.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
See?
Yeah, but yeah.
Work with me here.
No.
Somehow, Melodors won.
The Melodors won. Melodiers.
Somehow.
Melodors.
I'm glad they won.
Melodors. Okay, so a few things I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about them winning. One of the things that I realized when I woke up this morning was, Steve, you and I think, overthink things a lot.
Nah.
And I think
you're wrong.
You think?
the Melodors won, I think, partly because, remember, they're the first collegiate team. Back in season 3, we talked about the Dartmouth Airs, and you and I decided they were not going to win because there were like 55 people in that team, and it just costs too much money. Just purely from a production standpoint, you have to put them up, you have to pay them, you have to, et cetera, et cetera.
Feed them.
Yeah,
That's depressing.
but if you'll remember, the team that won this season got $50,000. They did not get a Sony recording contract.
They did not.
So they do not continue on from here as far as the sing-off goes. I mean, they can probably use the name. They can talk about winning the sing-off, but they're not like Pentatonics or Home Free with a recording contract that comes with their win.
They got a trophy.
Yes, they did. They got a trophy and they got a big check.
And there was also no mention, because there is a sing-off tour going on, and there's no mention of them joining the tour.
Right.
Either. So.
God only knows what'll happen with that. We don't. Any thoughts on on any of that?
I think those are valid points, and I think that's probably why they were like still in the running.
And the one collegiate team that ever won.
Yeah.
Kimlai?
I'm glad they won.
Now, here's the thing. I don't think that they didn't deserve to win. I think that there are lots of elements that come into play, and where being a college group might have been a disadvantage in the past, I think that element of disadvantage was not part of the decision this season. So I think it was actually a more level playing field. I love those college groups. I love the classic format, but I don't think it necessarily shows off all of the most exciting elements of a cappella.
No.
Like Committed did in season 2, like Street Corner Symphony did as one of the runner-up groups. With the dynamics and all of those other choices, but they do bring this big full sound, and they've got lots of, boy, they can do choreography, those collegiate groups. There are lots of great benefits to them, and I love that I don't care who would have won. I would have been happy with anybody winning.
Yeah.
I really would have.
And it kind of goes to, so what was this that we saw?
Yes.
And,
yes.
So at this point, it was, someone's going to win.
6, 8, 10 weeks worth of production in the past versus one night. I felt like this was, in a way, more exciting because it was more pressure packed into a couple of hours. But then by the same token, we did not get to learn our performers. I don't know anybody's name.
Yeah.
Like we used to in the past. We would know Michael and we would know Kirsty and we knew Scott and we knew Avi and we knew, we don't know anybody's names.
I was chatting with people in the audience, and that was their beef, was we don't have anyone to root for. We don't get to know anybody.
No, we
and that's
don't.
a big part of the show.
It was. So I think everyone's hopes for this are that the sing-off comes back. Here's what I loved. I loved when they did multiple week performances where we could learn who the people were. We could watch them go through their struggles because everybody got bronchitis at one point, in one of the past seasons. Or homesick. But then I think season 3 that we did was kind of the perfect hybrid because we had, things happening kind of over the summer, auditions. They had lots of groups coming in, things happening, big money at stake, big opportunities at stake. And then the finale was live. So whereas last season with Home Free, they taped it in, I don't know, September or October, and then released it in December for all of us to learn the answers to. But I love the live element of it, where there could be the genuine excitement.
Absolutely. It just keeps going to the debate that we've been having, which is what are they doing with this show?
Yeah.
What you have shown that a cappella group can go out and sell out venues worldwide.
Yes.
Pentatonics is huge. I mean, you can't get tickets to their shows. And you have people talking about it's a team sport. I honestly think they don't know what to do with this. They've tried to market this thing every which way.
Yeah.
And if they just listen to the people involved, and if they listen to the people who have gone through it,
and us,
they'll know. Listen, one of the reasons why I enjoy watching this, and it's football season right now in the States.
Right.
And in football, everyone has a job to do, and if you don't do it, the play doesn't work.
Right.
That's the sing-off. Everyone has a job to do, and they're competing against other teams. And if you don't do your job, there's a weakness in your team. It's a very, very simple format.
Combination, yeah.
But and like football, the more you know, the more you delve into it, the more fascinating it becomes.
Yes.
And it's so frustrating when they're trying to we'll have this happen, in the packages. It's just, I get that it has to have some sort of whatever they need to spin it upstairs,
right?
But it's so frustrating because the potential is just
it's got such a massive appeal for your audience. It's family friendly. The poor comedian who was running the audience kept swearing accidentally, and he was like, "Oh, shucks, sorry, this is a family friendly show." And obviously, none of that makes it to TV. But it was as far as the live audience that was there.
But as a feel though. Just as the feel, you're like, and you notice it when he accidentally swore, you're like, wow, that does not sound right at all here.
Right. But so this show has appeal to, the first time I ever heard about this thing was from my mother,
Okay.
So back in season 1. So, we've got the full broad range of opportunity for audience. We've got Pitch Perfect 2 coming out. One of the guys who's in Melodors, I think, is in Pitch Perfect 2.
Right.
We've got the music nerds, we've got the hip hop people, we've got classic country people. There are so many people who are going to be watching this show, and where Jewel was kind of saying this isn't the voice, this isn't about one person, it's about creating a team, and so there's so much heart. The heart is the thing that people kept talking about.
Yep.
That's one of the great things about the sing-off, and I really hope, and we're not the only ones. Everyone who's a fan of the show keeps saying, I hope they figure out how to make this go forward and make it work. Because I got to say, this episode, because it's not even a season, was not satisfying. It was fun. It was pleasant. I'm glad we got something.
I don't know who's in charge, but I really felt like we're supposed to thank you for the crumbs. And if you can't see the worth of this show, do a George Lucas and give it over to someone that cares about it and will do something really cool with it. But don't sit on it and throw these little 2-hour specials because you think, well, we got to give them something. It's a good show, and people like this, and there's talent that wants to get on the show and show what you can do. So if you don't respect it, give it to someone who does.
Redheaded stepchild. That's what I have on my thing.
There you go.
The show's been treated like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity here, and so much love, and so much willingness for people, both fans as well as performers, judges. I don't feel like there's anybody who's involved who's going, oh geez, not the sing-off again. Where sometimes they go, oh, they do say that about some of the other singing shows because it's a really standard format that we've seen over and over again. So anyway, final thoughts about the sing-off this year. Kimlai, you've been a little bit quiet over there.
I had a good time. It was a long rehearsal. I thought it was really long to sit through that. And you didn't get to connect with any of them, but overall, I had a good time.
I, first of all, am very impressed to any group that made it through the previous seasons.
Yes.
Wow. Just sitting through this show, you get a taste of, and Home Free was saying, no,
16-hour days
16
they were
hours,
doing
7
for
days.
7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 days, 16 hours.
Yeah.
That's why you saw those breakdowns, and that's why you saw. My take on it, I just pretty much just said. So, I hope somebody comes around and figures this out.
I do too. I mean, I'm a huge fan of this thing. I have been since season 1. I recruited you guys because I knew you would love it. Well, I didn't meet you yet, but I knew once we continued on that that's why we're here, because we love music and we love the way that they've done this. And maybe somebody from the Sing-Off's watching and knows
here's the thing.
We represent a lot of people.
I don't know if any of the producers were there last night. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, because they were double dutying over at The Voice.
Right. But if they simply turned around and looked at the audience, they would have seen a huge demographic.
Yeah.
Oh,
there was one of the reasons why he couldn't swear. There were kids,
little kids in the audience,
totally getting into it, and there were old people totally getting into it,
like you.
Yeah, like me. I didn't hear half of it,
No. Stop! Don't say that! Don't say that! Don't say that!
I'm going to start my old man voice.
But anyway, it was great. We hope you guys enjoyed the sing-off. Kimlai, tell people where they can find you.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at Kimlai Yingling.
Steve.
Awesome. Bottomley Steven, I believe.
Bottomley Steven on Twitter. Yeah, he checks it really often. I am at Tamara Berg, TamaraBerg. On Twitter. Also check out my website, tamaracentral.com. I've got a video that you guys maybe haven't seen about how to saber the top off of a champagne bottle. It's a cool trick. Check it out.
And then, by the way, she taught me how to do it, and nothing makes you look cooler than sabering a champagne bottle. I gotta tell you. I was gonna pimp us. We've got Justified
coming out in January.
So if you're not sick of us, like Tammy is of me,
I am a little bit.
Check out Justified in January.
But let's have Thanksgiving dinner together.
Yeah, let's.
All right, thanks you guys. We hope to see you again next season for a full season of the Sing-Off. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. Bye. Kimlai's mom's right here with us.
Oh my goodness. Kimlai's mom.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.